One very odd night. The diphenhydramine trip report by Silent Evil on Erowid. Took a total of 16 pills, which is a total of 400 milligrams of diphenhydramine. At 30 minutes, I was watching Family Guy with friends. Very relaxing. Hands and feet are feeling kind of heavy. Sounds are slightly enhanced. I'm hearing the carbonated bubbles popping. It's over in the Pepsi can on my desk. Friends are now leaving. They'll be back at noon tomorrow. At 50 minutes, I decided to go to the bathroom. And out of nowhere, the green walls became blue. It was very odd, because I didn't know what was happening at first. I was hearing random sounds. Moving has become very fluid and relaxing. Seeing more random things, like subtle little movement out of the corners of my eye. Vision has become more blurred. My mind tends to wander off track. Hard to read and write. Some minor hallucinations. Now, it's nearly impossible to... Well, as you can probably tell, I was just a little messed up in the brain when I was trying to write this trip report. Now I'm finishing the report now that I'm sober and able to type. The time thing kind of got thrown out the window with this whole thing. So I'll just explain everything as far as I remember it on that night. Keep in mind, on the night of this trip, I was alone the entire time. After my failed attempt to write, I got off my chair, and there was a little spider on the floor in my room. Same size as a normal spider, not strange or anything out of the ordinary. I become accustomed to spiders in my room from time to time. Seeing as my room is in the basement, right next to all of our storage stuff, I proceeded catching it in a tissue and flushing it down the toilet and continuing with my trip. While I was walking out of the bathroom, there were like 3 or 4 more on the ground outside my room. I really didn't think too much of it, except I think it was a little odd that randomly there were so many. I didn't like that spiders were there, but decided not to waste my time killing all of them. I sat in my room, feeling very pleasant watching more Family Guy, and just trying to be in a calm state of mind. I was so thirsty, so I decided to venture out of my room into the fridge not 15 feet from my room in the storage room. I opened my door and looked down and see the same spiders as before, now building a little web in the corner of the wall. And then I saw something on the floor. It was almost the same shade as my carpet, kind of a light tan whitish color. I bent down to look more closely, and I'm trying to focus the best I can, and all of a sudden my vision wasn't blurry anymore, and I saw what was on the floor. It was a fucking scorpion, and a big ass one too. I really had no time to respond to this, because right then, I see someone run down the stairs and go to the piano and start playing it. It seems like it was my brother, but at this time of night? Following him was my dad. Walking slower, he said, "Hey, turn the piano off and come back upstairs, I'll tuck you in." I was relieved to see his face. Talking the best I could, I explained to him that we really have a bad spider infestation, and I found a scorpion on the floor. He just stood there, looking off towards the pool table, not saying anything. I said a little louder, "Dad!" And then I repeated what I just said a little louder than I did before. I was really confused now. I was wondering why he wouldn't respond back to me. He then walked around towards the pool table and out of my immediate sight. I followed him. I wanted to see if he was alright, but there was nothing. Not a single person in the entire basement. Trust me, I searched. I went back to my room, and then remember what I went to do originally, get a drink. Not remembering that the scorpion was on the ground outside my room, I looked back at the spiders making their web, and tried to find a clear path that wouldn't disturb them. Right then, I saw the big-ass scorpion again. I forgot about it temporarily, but there it was, pincers out and tail up ready to sting. I'm not a pussy or anything, but this scared the shit out of me. I jumped over it nervously and continued to get a drink and kept seeing that same strange color difference in different areas on my basement carpet. I ignored it at first, carefully watching my step, trying not to step on these scorpions and get stung. I got my drink, but I didn't end up in my room for like 2 more hours. I was at this point sweating profusely, me not ever doing any hallucinogens before, and even worse, doing it alone on a Friday night. I went into my bar and grabbed every glass, cup, mug I could get. At this point, I didn't know what reality was and what was just hallucinogens, and that really, really is not a good thing. I was freaking out, having the worst trip of my life. I proceeded in carefully crawling around the floor and capturing every single scorpion I could find in my basement so that I could be safe and able to go to sleep at ease. In total, I put down maybe 50 to 75 glasses around my entire basement. As I'm laying down one of the cups, I look up, and there was this girl standing by my couch. So, not knowing this person, I was like, "Who the hell are you? And why are you in my house?" She calmly replied that she was friends with my friend Andy, and they were both just stopping by to say hi. She said that she drove him. At this time it was about 2:30 a.m. and I'm straight pissed now. I pretty much forgotten about the damn scorpions. Andy has been known to do dumb and very inconsiderate things, but this crossed the line. I found Andy standing in my game room by the air hockey table, and he's in my brother's dress clothes. I was like, "Dude, why did you come over? It's like 2 a.m. and you can't be here. My parents will hear you and will ground my ass. So you need to leave this second." I'm not fucking kidding anymore. I then realized that I was shouting and that my parents might hear me, so I quieted myself down and walked back into the basement area. The strange girl was still there, and I kept pleading to her that they needed to leave right now, or we would all be in trouble. She wouldn't respond to me. I went in closer to tap her to get her attention, but just then she disappeared. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Right as I see Andy walking over towards my pool table, and just as I went to tap him, he disappeared too. I was so confused and scared all in the same time. I shook my head, trying to make sense of all this, and then I saw this mysterious chick again, in the same place as before. She told me that they would be leaving in like 15 minutes, and that they were sorry about coming over. I thanked her and tried to explain the weird shit that was happening. I showed her all the glasses and cups, and told her there's a bunch of very well camouflaged scorpions on my carpet, and I've been trying to catch them, so I want to get stung. I told her that there may be more, so look out and be careful. I was sort of calming down. I was still very carefully watching every single step I took on my basement carpet. I went to watch TV, but I couldn't focus on the TV for some strange reason. I was getting kind of cold, so I went to get a blanket to wrap up with, but ended up getting a towel from the bathroom and still being cold. I think at this time, I turned on the light to the stairs and started up the stairs. I stopped about halfway up and realized that this was not a good idea to go up the stairs like this. Unfortunately, I was way too fucked up to care. I was hunting for scorpions, goddammit, and they made their way to the entryway. I was determined to stop them, but ended up going back downstairs. I walked back down and stood at the last step of the stairs and sat down trying to make sense of this night and make an attempt to calm down. When I sat down, I saw Steve next to me at the end of the stairs. I started talking to him and telling him that I'm having a really bad trip and I need him to talk to me. I looked up and it turns out that I was talking to a blanket that was draped over the railing. I got up quickly, grabbed the blanket, threw it on the floor and used it as kind of a safe walkway from the stairs to about halfway to the door to my room and about to the door to my bathroom. I walked on the blanket and jumped into the bathroom. I was now in a safe place to think. I was looking at the spiders from earlier, making their web. It was now a picture-perfect, round spider web with a brown recluse spider in the center of it. It is poisonous, and I avoided any contact with it. Next, I was carefully examining the big 3 to 4 inch long camouflage scorpion that was now under clear glass so he couldn't sting me. I would tap the glass, and he would put out his pincers and raise his tail, ready to attack. It was quite frightening. Right then I noticed that Steve was standing behind me, pointing to the darkness in the storage room. I asked him what he was looking at, and he said that I could see it if I looked close enough. Sure enough, there it was. It was a bird. Pigeon to be exact, standing in the room looking at me, with its little beady eyes moving his head around. I felt as if he could read my mind and my thoughts. I turned around to tell Steve that I saw the bird, and there was nobody there. I was again seeing and having conversations with people that were not there. I went into my room looking for anything to comfort me. The only thing I could think was the fact that there were no spiders or scorpions in my room as of yet. I look over, and Andy's sitting in my computer in my chair. I didn't even know what to say to him. I figured that they left at least an hour ago, since I didn't see them anywhere. To make it even worse, that girl that he was with was lying on my bed sleeping. I tried everything to get them to leave, but nothing. I would ask them things, but he wouldn't respond back to me, just silence. I would go tap the girl, and she would disappear, and then reappear when I was further away. This was getting increasingly frustrating, and even more while I was losing it. I was on the verge of a mental breakdown. I was seriously about to start crying. Then, there was nothing. I don't recall what happened from there until just before the end of my trip. The next thing I remember was walking down the stairs from my second floor of my house with my dad talking to me and stuff. I kept saying the best I could that I had a nightmare and I was really hot. I was drenched in sweat, and I mean soaked. He got me some ice water, and I went back into the basement room where I apparently went to sleep. I figured that it was just another one of my hallucinations. Next morning, my dad wakes up at 10:30, telling me that he was going to one of my brother's school things. He asked me if I remember what happened last night. Of course I responded with, "What do you mean?" I knew what I did that night from 10 p.m. to about 6:30 a.m. And the rest I figured I slept and dreamt that part about talking with my dad while I was tripping. Here's what really happened. I personally do not remember any of this. My dad told me this all. I ended up walking upstairs again, but not going back down like before. I ended up going all the way up to the stairs where my brother's and parents' bedrooms were. I ended up standing right next to my parents' bed, on my dad's side, not saying anything, just standing there. He said that we had a conversation about something like this. Him, "What are you doing here?" Me, "Nothing." Him, "Is everything okay?" Me, "Yeah." Him, "What do you want?" Me, "Nothing." He then brought me back to the kitchen and gave me a cold glass of water and asked me again if everything was okay. I replied yes, but I had a really bad nightmare and he noticed that I was soaked with sweat. He said that we sat in the kitchen and talked for another 5 minutes. Then he said I went downstairs and went to sleep. He figured that I was sleepwalking because I had done similar things in the past. So it turns out that I wasn't hallucinating talking to my dad tripping out. That's really strange because I wasn't nervous at all talking to him, just playing it cool. And I'm in the clear.